Sometimes the storms are not necessarily a bad place to be. Don't switch off. Just stay with me for a second. We know that we don't like storms. We want to be in calm, still waters. We don't like the wilderness, that space of doubt and questions and uncertainty. We want to be in the promised land, in the place of rest. We don't like that part of the story where we don't have enough to do the work that we've been called to do. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough energy. We don't have enough motivation to do the work that we're called to do, to carry out the responsibilities that we've given. We don't like to be in that place. But sometimes the reality is that it is in those places that we actually discover new things about God, new revelations about God that we hadn't been able to see before. I think of the disciples in the boat with Jesus at the storm. And if they hadn't been there with Jesus, they never discover his authority over every storm. The authority of his word, such that even nature bows at his command. And I think of certain spaces in my life, and I think of all the new things I discovered about who my God is that I learned in the spaces of the storm. And the disciples, they would never discover Jesus' ability to do great things from very little had they not stood before him with the loaves and the fish that were not sufficient in their eyes to look after the people that he was calling them to feed. And I think about my journey, and I think about all those times when I felt that this is not enough, which is most times I'm recording, and yet somehow we get to see God's ability to take what is in our hands and do incredible things with it. And so there is that reality of what Paul speaks of when he says, I rejoice in my weakness, because when I am weak, then I am strong, because your power shows your best in weakness. And it's that wonderful truth that it is right in the midst of our nothingness, right where we come to the end of ourselves, right in those spaces where we are like, God, I'm out of my depth here. I don't know what to do. I don't have the energy to do. It is in that space that we hear the voice of God reminding us, you are not on this journey alone. I'm here. And it is those spaces that we step back and allow God to take center stage. Because we are so good at taking center stage of our lives, at being busy and doing this and doing that and running here and there like we are the ones that are going to save our world and save ourselves. And I recall what God said once about his people. He said, I will draw them back to the wilderness, and there I will win their hearts again. And there's something about weakness that allows us to see God's strength. The world tells us that weakness is a bad thing, vulnerability is a bad thing, the storm is a bad thing. But there's something about those seasons that open our eyes to truly see God again. And so if you find yourself in the middle of a storm, if you find yourself confronted with your weakness and your vulnerability in any space, rejoice. It is an opportunity to see God's power and to be reminded again that in this journey that you are on, you are not alone.